Welcome. Thank you for joining us for the RI Realtors COVID-19 Town Hall Forum. This session was recorded on April 24th, 2020.
My name is Beverly Pierce. I am the trainer at RI Realtors, and thank you for joining us for our first COVID-19 Town Hall Forum meeting. This is planned to be the first of 4 sessions that we're going to have, and today we're very happy to have several of our panelists with us today. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep everybody's microphones muted. We have over 220 people that are planned to join us today. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep all the microphones muted so that we don't have any interferences while the speakers are speaking. We will hopefully have some time at the end for some Q&A. So if you'd like to submit a question, you can do so using the chat feature, which if you're on a computer should be found on the toolbar at the bottom of your screen. Okay. Any questions that we don't have time to get to today, we will put into a document and answer and submit to all of the attendees. Okay. So first, we are going to have Phil speak. Of course, I need to find his microphone.
You hear me?
I can, yes. Please go right ahead, Phil. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I'll try to be quick this morning because I know we have a lot of relevant information as it relates to the current loans and some stuff that might be more timely. But I just wanted to let everybody know that we continue to be open and operational. As you're aware, Monica's continued to keep the legal hotline going for you, and our tech support is also still available and fully operational, just being handled remotely. So we are still here for the members. I thought I'd just quickly report that we have been doing on your behalf since this began and give a quick update on what I've been hearing nationally. Some of you may have heard from us already as we've been reaching out by phone to brokers to keep you up to date, as well as make sure you're aware of our resources. I think I've called close to half of you so far, me or other staff members. So really, as your CEO, my focus since this began has been business continuity for our members. We've continually been working through issues with DVR, state agencies and municipalities. We have worked closely with the governor's office since the very beginning, initially in discouraging open houses. Then we were in communications with her office, Commerce, RI, and DVR to ensure that real estate be deemed essential. We drafted a letter to the governor from President Buss on behalf of the members, and I've been in touch with DVR as well. We reported that going into this, statewide MLS had 1,730 transactions in contract, which represented over $1 billion, and the majority of those were condos and single-family residences. And that was just what was in contract. Total current active inventory of over 5,000 listings represented $4.7 billion. So economically, it's incredibly significant. I'm proud to say that you still have the ability to function, which is more than can be said for some parts of the country. Overall, I think we've been navigating this pretty well. As I've mentioned before, I tell folks that we're flying just below the radar here in Rhode Island in terms of our ability to continue to do business, but that we should try not to draw too much attention to ourselves. So what am I hearing? Real Trends, Steve Murray, you may be familiar with him, out of Colorado. I was on a call with him this week. He is thinking for the rest of 2020 nationally, he has brokerages preparing for sales and income to be down 40 to 50% second quarter, down 20 to 30% third quarter, and down 15 to 20% fourth quarter. Also heard from NAR Chief Economist Lawrence Yun. He has been identifying some new trends as well as giving us an outlook as what the rest of the year looks like. In terms of new trends, he looked at Central Lock's lockbox data nationally. You'll remember that Central Lock is Second Century Initiatives, an NAR company, so they have the ability to pull stats nationally. Nationally, showings are down well over 70%, and buyers are taking advantage of virtual tours, much more now. They're getting it down to 1 or 2 properties and physically visiting only those and writing an offer following that. So I think you might see some new trends in the marketplace as a result of this. Lawrence Yun was a little more positive. He thinks that year-end home sales will only be down about 10%. He's confident it will rebound in the fall, but not enough to make up for missing the spring buying season. In terms of prices, he reported he thinks that they will remain stable because we went into the pandemic with a lack of inventory, and it's even less inventory now. For 2021, he's predicting gains in sales volume, prices, and inventory. So we will see. A couple of quick announcements from NAR. NAR mid-year meetings will be held virtually. We'll still have committee meetings, regional caucus, board of directors meeting. I think it opened today. If you visit legislative.realtor, you could register. As of now, NAR is still planning for an in-person expo in New Orleans in November. We'll see if that happens. NAR committee appointments, applications, the deadline has been extended to June 1st. So if anybody's interested in applying, you can access that on our website. Additionally, if you are not familiar with it, NAR is offering a number of options under their Right Tools Right Now program, reduced rate trainings, a number of different things. I encourage you to visit nar.realtor/Right Tools Right Now for more information on that. And then finally, I want to report that RIAR recently made a $5,000 contribution to assist the community. We gave $2,500 to the Rhode Island Foundation and $2,500 to Family Services RI, both to support their COVID-19 funds to support the frontline workers and first responders. So I think that's it. Let me save time for our other panelists, but throughout all this, I have been trying to make a point of being as available as I can for members. So if anybody needs me for anything, please either phil@rirealtors.org or call me directly on my cell phone, 401-595-1358. Thank you. Stay well, everyone.
Thank you, Phil. We appreciate it. All right. So next on our agenda, we have William Deluca, the real estate licensing administrator at the Rhode Island Department of Business Regulations, who's going to talk to us about all things licensing. So take it away, Bill.
Good morning, everyone.
Thank you.
We've been processing licensing during this entire time. We've had a minimum number of people in the office, perhaps one, no more than two at a time. Most of us have been working from home. To date, we've processed approximately 3,600 renewals. They're going very well. The biggest issue we've been having is people are not used to uploading their certificates, so we have to send them emails to remind them to send them to us, and then we have to upload them for them before we can approve their licenses. Overall, going very well. I'd like to see a little higher numbers, but I'm sure everybody's still working on getting their education done and getting ready to submit before the end of May. So that's where we are there. It's going.
Bev, you need to unmute him.
I didn't mute him.
Hold on, Bill, you're muted.
Am I back again?
Yep,
Yeah.
we can hear you now.
All right. Where did you hear me last?
You said,
You
hi,
said something.
I'm Bill Deluca. No, yeah, you just a second ago, it just went off.
Said you'd like to see
So
higher
the
numbers.
biggest thing we've been having is getting individuals to upload their education. We've been doing that by sending them notices on email, so this way they're aware of it. The data extension, as you know, is until May 31st. That is still a hard deadline as of right now. We don't anticipate extending that beyond that point. Hopefully, we'll start getting a little more influx over the next couple of weeks, so we don't have that last minute rush like we normally do whenever there's a hard deadline. As far as Pearson View and the testing situation, they have moved out their testing date until May 31st. However, they may consider an earlier testing date here in Rhode Island if local restrictions are opening up. I know right now they're only working with first responders and nursing exams and things of that nature, but they are willing to open up, probably at reduced capacity, probably around 50% due to social distancing at a time. So they may have to offer more exam times for people to get accommodated. But they're coming along very well also as far as what they're doing and the things that they're doing to stay safe for themselves and the people that come in to do the examinations. Finally, the online education, from what I can tell from the feedback I've been getting, it seems to be going very well. A lot of this is new to us, using Zoom, GoToMeeting, and different formats such as that. I would like to see it at some time maybe become a more permanent feature, but as of right now, it's been excellent. We've been able to keep people engaged, keep people moving. Those who want to continue or start a career in real estate have been able to have the opportunity, and we're looking forward to continuing with that process. So I'm not sure if there's anything else that you would need an update on at this point. The feedback I've been getting has been very positive.
Could you tell us the total number of renewals at this point, Bill?
We're around 3,600 as of right now. It's a little lower than I would have liked, but we are expecting an uptick very shortly over the next couple of weeks. Those of you who haven't received an extra email will probably be getting more and more often over the next couple of weeks.
Bill, the home inspector licensing has extended as well, right?
Yes. From what I understand about that program, it's on hold for the time being.
Okay. And I'm sorry if I missed it. Did you mention credits if you've already renewed your license and you take classes between now and the new extension?
Well, what we're kind of hoping for is that if you've already renewed your license and you want to start taking additional courses, that you wait until at least after 4/30/20. So this way here, when we have to do the next cycle, we don't have to double check cycles to make sure that people, quite frankly, aren't double dipping with the courses. So this way here, if we have a date of at least 4/30, preferably 5/31, we'll be able to go through that process faster. If people want to take additional courses or start taking the courses after 4/30, it's okay, though I would suggest not to. It'd be better for us anyhow, as far as a processing point in 2 years from now, to have them take it after the 31st of May. But a lot of people are at home and they're looking for opportunity to get things done, and I can appreciate that.
Beverly, can you welcome Mark? He should be able to join us now, please.
Hey, yeah, can Mark have his microphone?
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Mark. Next
I'm here.
We have,
There he is.
thank you so much. Let me properly introduce you. We have Mark Hayward from the Rhode Island District Office. He's the director of that district office of the US SBA, who's going to talk to us about SBA loans, programs, etc. Thank you for joining us, Mark.
No, it's my pleasure. I apologize for not getting on sooner. The problem is on government computers that doesn't allow us to use Zoom, so we have to put it into our private personal phones and emails and things like that. So it took a little while to get there. But the SBA, as most people know, we have the Congress has passed and sent to the president round 2 of the Paycheck Protection Program, and what we're doing right now is we're awaiting further guidance from both Treasury as well as the White House as to excuse me, if there are any updates or any modifications to the original legislation. As everybody knows, approximately 8,000 loans were approved here in Rhode Island for approximately $1.5 billion. And the Paycheck Protection Program is exactly for that. It is to protect individuals' paychecks if you have an employee that you have laid off and you can bring them back onto your payroll. That should be done immediately. They would come off of unemployment. And I think the biggest problem that we have from our perspective is that small businesses, including your businesses, are not used to paying people to stay home, and in many instances, that's exactly what's happening. So, but that's why they call it the Paycheck Protection Program, and we have had a tremendous amount of response to that, and people are queuing up as we speak to ensure that they get the people who did not participate in round one will get into round two. So I've had a lot of questions about the economic injury disaster loan program and what is happening with that. There were a significant amount of applications for that. Just economic injury, the Paycheck Protection Program is for the next 8 weeks as it relates to your own personal employees, and the economic injury disaster loan, and it is a loan for 3 3/4%. It looks out beyond the initial period to 12, 14, 16, 18 months beyond where we are right now for working capital purposes. And I think that that is a program that has had tremendous success. However, that portal is closed as well. The money has been expended while we anticipate additional funds to be appropriated from the Congress in this particular piece of legislation. I do not believe, I don't know whether or not that portal is going to be reopened. And I know that there are many people who have applied. We've heard from them. If you're having an issue in contacting the disaster office, please let us know. And we're happy to try to make that connection. So basically, those are the programs of the SBA right now. If individuals are looking for technical assistance, we are remotely working with hundreds, if not thousands, of small businesses across the state to try to get them situated from a perspective of how do they anticipate certain things? What are we going to do once the economy reopens? How can you help me? We have the Small Business Development Center from the University of Rhode Island. We have our SCORE volunteers, which have a tremendous amount of experience throughout the state of Rhode Island. We have the Center for Women in Enterprise. And the fourth one that we have is the Veterans Business Outreach Center, which is helping our veteran small businesses around the state. So I'll leave it there, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Okay, I'm going to compile all the questions in the chat here, and we'll direct those to you guys at the end. Hopefully we'll have some time for that. And again, if it turns out we don't have time for any Q&A, I am keeping track of all the questions, and we'll get the answers and distribute that document to everyone who attended.
I do want to say, if they do want to send us questions, they can send it to Rhode Island and spell Rhode Island out _DO@SBA.gov, and that will get to us as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to have David Salvatore. He's the Government Affairs Director at RI Realtors, and he's going to give us some state and municipal updates. David?
Thank you, Bev. Good morning, everybody. So I'm sure, like many of us here on staff, you've been following the governor's press conferences every day at 1 o'clock for the most part. And I have to say that for the last couple of months, RIAR has been walking lockstep with the governor in her call to keep Rhode Islanders safe. As you know, the governor signed several executive orders that impact our industry. And I'm proud to say that that state government is happy with the level of support that our members have demonstrated over the last several months. So thank you very much for all of your support and efforts in maintaining our relationship with the governor's office, and also keeping our members and clients safe. Many of you have asked over the last couple of months why real estate hasn't been deemed an essential industry. I think what the governor's approach has been is to work backwards in terms of keeping some semblance of an economy while recognizing the public health and safety of our residents. So again, to be clear, she has asked us to practice social distancing and common sense safety protocols. And if you do that, you'll be able to continue your work in the field as real estate agents. After working closely with the governor's office, RIAR strongly encouraged our members to halt open houses. Happy to see that many of you are taking advantage of virtual tools and technology resources. So well done on that front. Our members have also embraced the face mask executive order. I see a lot of pictures and videos on social media. So keep up the good work in complying with that order. It's just a matter of keeping you and your clients safe. So thank you for that as well. There's been a lot of talk in the news and a lot of questions have been submitted to RIAR regarding unemployment. I know Mark touched on the PPP program that's being administered by the SBA. That is different than the unemployment, emergency unemployment insurance that all of you or many of you are now eligible for within the state of Rhode Island. As independent contractors and self-employees or self-employers, you are now eligible for unemployment benefits under the rules promulgated by the state of Rhode Island and the Department of Labor and Training. I am proud to say that Rhode Island was one of the first states to enter into an agreement with the U.S. Department of Labor. There are still many states out there that have not taken advantage of statewide unemployment emergency benefits during this challenging time. So I'm proud to say that Rhode Island was one of the first. And many of our members are taking advantage of that service and those benefits. If you have questions about unemployment insurance and the information that you should be filling out, feel free to visit the RIAR website. There's a COVID-19 webpage set up specifically to address many of the questions and concerns that you have about COVID-19 and how it impacts your industry. In terms of unemployment, we have an FAQ posted on our webpage. I have asked the Department of Labor and Training in Rhode Island to also post an FAQ on their website relative to independent contractors, gig economy workers, self-employers and employees, so that there is a one-stop shop when interacting with state government. So I'm happy to report that the Chief of Staff to the Director is working on a list of questions that I submitted to him over the last several days. And I'm hoping that that FAQ will be up and running on the DLT website in the coming days. Many of you have reached out and asked which form should I fill out in terms of DLT. It's important that you're filling out the right form if you are applying for unemployment benefits. As independent contractors and self-employers and employees, there is a specific form that you have to fill out. If you don't fill out the correct form, your application is going to be denied. So it's critical that you're clicking on the right link on the DLT website. It's also posted on the RIAR COVID-19 webpage. If you have questions about the form itself, obviously email DLT, but if you're not sure which form to fill out, certainly reach out to me at governmentaffairs@rirealtors.org. Again, it's critical that you're filling out the right form. Many of you have reached out asking, what are localities doing to keep real estate open during this challenging time? All 39 municipalities are different for obvious reasons, but we have been hearing from some members about specific municipalities where they're finding retrieving information and completing transactions a little more of a challenge than most of the municipalities. Again, visit the COVID-19 webpage that we've established on the RIAR website. There you will find a lot of information regarding all 39 cities and towns, which city and towns, city halls are open, which ones are closed, and which local municipalities are offering services in terms of recording, inspections and standards, especially around CO2 and smoke inspections. So take a look at that website. There's a lot of good information there. If you're finding that certain municipalities are not getting back to you in a timely manner, or they're not offering the services necessary for you to complete a transaction, email me and let me know which municipality it is. Again, I know that there are a handful of municipalities that are struggling to meet the needs of our members, and we're always happy to reach out to city and town council members and certainly mayors and city and town managers as well. There are a couple of other updates that I wanted to provide you with. Foreclosures and evictions. We've heard from some of our members in the rental community who are concerned about the rent and mortgage moratorium that has been implemented for those government-backed mortgages. Obviously, we as an association represent homeowners and tenants, but we are hearing concerns about an initiative or an executive order that was recently executed by Massachusetts governor, which would suspend rent and mortgage payments. Some of our members are concerned that Rhode Island will move in that direction as well. And when it comes time to pay that bill, many of our landlord members are concerned that they're not going to receive the rent that's necessary to pay that mortgage. So we are communicating with the governor's office and obviously localities to mitigate any risk on behalf of homeowners. If I hear anything different, obviously we'll update you in our newsletter that we're sending out every week and also on the RIAR website. Flood insurance. FEMA is extending the grace period to renew flood insurance policies from 30 to 120 days in order to help NFIP policy holders, certainly during this challenging time. And there are many, many homeowners, as you know, who are experiencing financial hardship. There's more information, obviously, on the federal government's website and the RIAR website as well. As far as that, I know Ted wants to talk about remote online notarizations, so I won't talk too much about that, but I am happy to say that after speaking with the governor's office and the Secretary of State, we all agree that remote online notarization is something that is going to help all of you complete your transactions in a timely manner while practicing social distancing. Unfortunately, we have to wait for the next COVID-19 stimulus package, as they're calling it in Washington, D.C., to pass, where a lot of policy-related issues are going to be vetted by the House and the Senate. One of the issues that NAR and obviously RIAR is strongly advocating for is for Congress to pass a piece of legislation which would allow those states that don't currently allow remote online notarization to do so. So our Secretary of State has a mechanism now in place for title attorneys and closing attorneys to take advantage of this service. Unfortunately, some lenders don't feel comfortable from a liability perspective in carrying this through as part of the finalized piece. And I know, again, Ted wants to talk about this, but please know that we are in contact with our federal delegation, our 2 senators and our 2 representatives in the House. And I'm happy to say that Senator Whitehouse and Congressman Cicilline are strongly supporting this bill as respective members of the House and Senate Judiciary Committees. And finally, I think Monica might talk about smoke and CO inspections. I have been in contact with Senator Reid regarding foreclosures and rental moratoriums. I'm going to be having a conversation with him and his team in the coming days. I know he's working on a package that could provide some relief for homeowners. So again, if you have questions or concerns, if you're hearing anything in the field where you're not receiving cooperation from local or state government, please feel free to reach out to me at governmentaffairs@rirealtors.org. Stay safe and healthy, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Would you please repeat, you said there was a site that we could visit to see the list of municipalities that are open and what services they're currently offering?
Yes, it's on the RIAR website under the COVID-19 webpage. So click on the government affairs piece and there's a link to municipalities and the services that they're offering during the state of emergency.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thanks, David. Next, we have Shannon Buss, our 2020 RI Realtors president, who's going to talk about doing business in the current world, as well as some other resources that are available to you. Shannon, thank you.
Hi, good morning, Ted Reidy. So I've been in touch with a lot of you. My cell phone, if you have any questions you ever want to reach out, is 401-714-7056. I just want to say I'm super proud of how we have all handled this, this situation. You know, it's completely unprecedented. We're working our way through things that we've never had to worry about in the past. Our staff has been absolutely incredible, working around the clock every day to make sure that, you know, our businesses can continue. And so has your leadership team and the MLS team. So, you know, we are probably the most flexible bunch out there, aside from our children. I will say that the advocacy that we've received on all levels of this organization, local, state, and national, has been incredible. You know, never have independent contractors qualified for unemployment. We have all kinds of benefits available to us. I'd say we got our dues worth this year and then some. You know, I want to say that this is a very personal thing that we're all going through right now. You know, we're not just dealing with our businesses. Every home looks different. Some of us are distance learning with our children. Some of us are taking care of parents. Some of us have, you know, high risk folks back at home that we're worried about. And, you know, so I think business looks different for every single one of us. There's no black and white way to be doing it right now. And that's okay. You know, however your business looks, you know, make sure that you're doing it responsibly and that you're being safe. Those are our main concerns. We're here to give you the tools, but, you know, it's up to you to make sure that, you know, you're doing what you need to do. On that note, if you can't be working in your business, you certainly should be working on your business. We've never had so many tools at our fingertips, you know, at one time at either discounted or free registrations. I would point you first to the RIAR COVID-19 page. So rirealtors.org/COVID-19. Most of the questions I receive from the membership are answered on that page. So if you can't find what you're looking for, we also have an email, covid19@rirealtors.org, that you can send your questions to. I'd say, you know, it's important that you get up every day, you get dressed like you're going to work, you try and maintain some sort of normalcy, some sort of schedule, so that, you know, we don't know how long this will go on for, but we do expect a quick recovery. So be ready to pounce, right? We want to be ready for this. NAR has, as Phil mentioned, the Real Tools Right Now page. They've also set up nar.realtor.com/education. They're offering free designation courses, some of the 6-hour courses that typically would cost you hundreds of dollars. You can complete your commitment to excellence certification, endorsement, excuse me. YPN has been hosting awesome panels right here in Rhode Island. So be watching for their communications, you know, every week and sometimes more often. Carrie from marketing has been putting out, you know, our constant contacts with a host of different things that you can be registering for. Women's Council of Realtors, same thing, every night, a different free piece of education. Your local boards are hosting happy hours, which I've thankfully been invited to. And, you know, they've been wonderful because it's been like a giant mastermind. So, you know, just talking to your colleagues about what they're seeing in the field and what questions you should be asking. It's important that you keep part of those conversations. Inman News is offering 3 free months of their account online. So more articles than you probably ever could read on pretty much any topic that you could think of. You know, if you need to work on your real estate photography, Nikon is doing free photography classes. You know, think about what skills you need to be sharpening right now. Just Google it. I'm sure it's out there. Update your profiles I went on RI Living the other day and I noticed that, the majority of us have either no profile or an outdated profile. That's something for free that we could all be doing. Same with your MLS profile. I try and pick 3 things every day that I'll get accomplished just to keep me on track and keep me productive. And, our business plans for the year, they've shifted. We're missing the spring market. We will make up for it. But right now I'm doing a 30-day business plan because that's what I can, look at before I'll need to shift again. Don't change the goal, just change the plan, right? We still want to be on goal for the end of the year. I heard an interesting quote this morning that I'll share with you. And, my passion is always with Anne and education. I just feel that, I was born in the boom, but I was raised in the crash. And so I've been through a tough market before. Thankfully, my mentors and my managers and my colleagues didn't allow me to have many bad habits. And so I learned that education from the very beginning was a core value that we should all be working on ourselves and on our businesses constantly. This business changes by the minute, as we can all see, we're all experiencing now. So this is the quote. "This is our life until June at the earliest. In August and September, you'll either get a check or a bill based on your implementation right now." So some of us are out there showing homes, some of us are not. We can still be working on things. The worst thing you can do for yourself is sit on the couch and turn on Netflix for days on end. And that's my advice. All right? Take care, stay safe, and please reach out if I can answer any of your questions.
Thank you, Shannon. Now you mentioned some free resources for education. Can you repeat a little bit of that?
Sure.
Thank
So the first place, first, read your emails. I can say that because I'm also a realtor. Staff can't say that. Realtors, they suffer from DNR, do not read, okay? You need to read your emails. There's important information in there that's coming at you multiple times a week from RIAR. Next, go to NAR Real Tools right now. If you Google NAR Real Tools right now, it'll take you right to that page. Third, you can go to nar.realtor/education. You can also go on Facebook and follow the page for the Rhode Island Association of Realtors YPN. They have events. Make sure that you're following your local boards because they also have events posted on there. Make sure that you're reading your emails from your local boards. Inman News, INMAN, is a big real estate news outlet. They normally have a paid prescription. Subscription. And right now they're offering 3 months of Inman News for free. So this is all free research, guys. I'll also note that if you go on NAR, the NAR website, and you go to the library, there is an unbelievable amount of information on the NAR library. And as part of your dues, which most of us don't realize, they will actually send you business books in the mail for free. They have an entire library. So if there's something that you're interested in, you can ask them for that. Also, if there's a subject that you're interested in, you can email the librarian. They will research it for you and then email you all of the links and resources on whatever topic it is that you're interested in. So it's endless, really. I think I covered all the major ones, Bev.
Great. Thank you so much, Shannon. We appreciate it. The comments coming in are great. Everybody appreciates your comments. Thank you. And if you don't mind, I'll also mention that here at RI Realtors, you also have all of your MLS tools. There are classes for those for free as well, and we're holding them all in this manner. So if you have some time and want to spruce up on your MLS skills, join me. All right, so next we have Brenda Hayden. She's the Assistant Director of Home Ownership at RI Housing, and she's going to talk to us about what's going on in the lending world and some changes and overlays. So Brenda, thank you so much for joining us today. Go ahead. I think
You're muted.
yourself.
You're muted,
Yeah,
Brenda.
Okay, is
There you
that
go.
better?
Perfect,
Yep.
thank you.
I just want to say hello to everybody and thank you so much for allowing us to participate. Shannon, I absolutely love your comments regarding shift the plan, not the goal. I think that today, I mean, COVID-19 has certainly changed the rhythm of our lives, both personally and professionally. We're all navigating towards a new normal. At Rhode Island Housing, we continue to center our efforts to make business as usual. Our business continuity plan has established essential employees to work from home. We're extremely thankful for technology today. And with doing that, we're still maintaining a 2 business day turn time on new loans coming in, as well as conditions. And this is allowing those loans to get to the closing table. Technology is also allowing us to stay in contact with colleagues, industry leaders, and please know that our government team is also monitoring changes to ensure that we're meeting the needs of Rhode Islanders. We've also been monitoring the whole industry very closely. We've aligned our policies and procedures to be flexible and to go along with the temporary guidelines that have been established by Fannie Mae and HUD to support mortgage origination and appraisal requirements. Program advisory was sent out by Rhode Island Housing on April 9th, and it did issue a temporary suspense of our 203K product. This was actually done because we have to still conform to a full appraisal, and we found that it was putting a lot of people at risk. So once we're able to start doing appraisals, social distancing becomes a little bit more of a norm. We're hoping that we'll be able to open that product back up. Many lenders, from what we're seeing, are assessing risk tolerance across their own product lines. It's very difficult for me to sit here today and to tell you what lenders are doing and what lenders are not doing. But one thing I can do is I can tell you that I'm very happy to report that Rhode Island Housing has not placed any overlays on any of our products. We're still continuing to operate business as usual. We continue to offer down payment assistance in the form of First Down, the Spring 7500, and also our extra assistance products. What I will do is I can share some best practices with you. I believe and I strongly encourage you, as we're making these shifts throughout the industry, and these changes are happening daily, reach out to your loan officers prior to accepting pre-approvals and putting offers in. We're finding that lenders are putting overlays in on FICOs, pricing, debt to income ratios, and ultimately deciding if they're even going to continue to offer a product. So with doing this, we want you to have the assurance that your pre-approval is valid and that your borrower is going to be able to proceed forward. So as a rule of thumb, I probably look for your pre-approval dates anywhere between maybe 15 and 30 days. I think that you're going to find that the longer that we're kind of staying in this, you're going to have lenders that are going to be assessing that risk daily. I also want to suggest, as you're talking to your customers, ensure that they're retaining pay stubs and bank statements. And one of the reasons why this is essential in the market today is Fannie Mae and also HUD, they've started to issue guidance regarding the age of documentation. So with doing that, we're very often going back to our borrower and asking them to recertify income and also assets, maybe more often than what we normally would. Fannie Mae's guidance has dropped down to 60 days versus the average 120. So you also want to ensure when we're getting to that closing table and getting close that your borrower is still gainfully employed. We have run into various situations. It can be unemployment, borrowers that are furloughed. And I can tell you, we are trying very, very hard to not stop a closing and to be able to continue getting to that closing table to avoid rate lock issues, avoid additional fees. So with doing that, we need to make sure that the borrower is employed and they are employed at the rate of pay that we use to qualify a loan. So with doing that, if you have someone that you know is furloughed, unemployed, has gone back to work, the key is that we do need a pay stub to evidence those hours worked before we're actually able to get over to the closing table. So as those issues start to surface, I think that you're going to see that lenders as well as Rhode Island Housing, we're going to work on those on a case-by-case situation. Every loan we're finding has a little different, unique tweak to it. But, you know, please be assured that our common goal is always to get to the closing table. So we're going to work with lenders, business partners, and borrowers in order to make that happen. Our industry continues to change daily. We strongly encourage open communication. So, you know, we have a terrific website at rihousing.com. We are continuously updating any product changes that we have, and also just giving you some great information regarding the existing programs. And, you know, if there are any questions, I strongly encourage you to reach out to your loan officers. You know, if it's a Rhode Island Housing loan, we're here, we're available, and we're ready to answer the questions. And we're doing that daily. Technology has been absolutely wonderful. So I didn't really have anything more to share except to let you know that we're here. We're supporting your efforts with what you're doing. We welcome any comments, suggestions that you have, and we will, you know, move forward to get through this together. So please take care, stay safe, and be positive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Brenda. We appreciate it. And again, I am keeping track of all the questions that are coming in on the chat, and hopefully we'll have some time at the end to address those questions if they're not already being addressed. And for those of you that joined late, if we do not have time for the Q&A, I am compiling a document and we will share it with everyone who attended today. So next we have our wonderful Monica Staaf, General Counsel of RI Realtors, who's going to share some wonderful information on inspections, on liability, and hopefully she'll mention her legal hotline as well. Monica?
Good morning, everybody. I briefly lost my connection, so that's why I'm showing as Ted Reidy, and I logged in again. It's also for solidarity for Ted, because he does a great job. Anyway, it's really lovely to see all of you. This year I will have worked for RIAR for almost 20 years. And one of the things that really keeps me going, keeps me interested in working with all of you, is that you as realtors are some of the most creative, resilient, wonderfully talented people I know. And if anyone's going to get through this, it's going to be you. So anyway, we are here to help. So I'd just like to talk about some of the topics Bev mentioned. One is the legal hotline. We post the information about the type of legal hotline calls I get every month. No surprise, the end of March really blew up. And my questions have kind of come in waves. I'm not going to go through all the questions here because a lot of them we've tried to feed them to rirealtors.org on the website that David and some others had mentioned, and just try and keep those current with questions. But I mean, originally, if you just think back 5 or 6 weeks ago, at that time, we're thinking our closing is going to happen, our smoke detector inspection is going to happen. Can people have open houses? Then we had a lot of questions about access to rental properties. kind of a whole week of rental issues that's kind of coming back again for questions. We've had questions about when the governor issued the order about out-of-staters having to quarantine coming to Rhode Island. We had a whole wave of questions about, can realtors in Rhode Island cross state lines? Can your buyers come into Rhode Island just for showings? And so that's another thing that through David's help and the association's help with the governor's office, we've been able to keep going and getting clarification from the governor's office anytime it's not clear what an executive order applies to. I do want to make a quick plug about rentals. Anne will probably give more details towards the end. We're actually going to be holding a forum just like this on May 8th, and it's going to be dedicated completely to rentals. So watch for more details about that. We're going to cover a whole wide range of rentals. And Anne, I don't want to steal your thunder if you're providing more details, so I will keep going with just the legal part before she starts giving me the dirty look.
Me?
I know, Anne, you're as gentle as a lamb, so.
Yeah, I just have the hook ready. Just the hook.
All right. So I think a lot of what I'd just like to mention would be just some of the legal resources. We've got also on rirealtors.org. Originally, we had a COVID-19 amendment that the Forms Committee worked on at the very, very start of all of this. We knew that things would continue to change, so we really didn't make that available in Instinet or Dotloop. That was just posted on our website. Most recently, actually now I think it's about 2 weeks ago, the Forms Committee kind of streamlined the COVID-19 amendment to reflect more for what we're seeing. If you haven't, that has been sent to Instinet, Dotloop, and ZipLogix. If you haven't seen that amendment, it's also posted without password protection on rirealtors.org. So if you have any questions about that or anything else, feel free to contact me. I just wanted to briefly mention some of the types of requests for forms that we've been getting at RIR and the Forms Committee. A lot of the forms, they've actually put guidance or answered questions also on rirealtors.org. Some people I know have been using questionnaires before entering into a property for showings. And some listing brokers use those to send them out to cooperating brokers and buyers. Sometimes people use them with tenants or sellers just trying to find out, do you have the fever? Have you had any kind of symptoms? And so people have asked about the legality. If there's nothing wrong with using questionnaires if it gives you some comfort, but two caveats with that. One, I would say the best way, in our opinion, and believe me, the Forms Committee discussed every kind of suggestion that we've seen or gotten from members. What I would suggest just to keep yourselves safe is, since now we know that so many people can be carrying the virus without showing any symptoms, just assume that everybody you're coming into contact with could be carrying the virus. I think that'll help you set your mind a little bit better about social distancing and not think, okay, well, this person answered no to the questionnaire, so now I'm safe. So, but anyway, if you want to use a questionnaire and it gives you some comfort, feel free to continue doing that. Also, hold harmless agreements has been another popular question that we've had. Do we want to, someone going to sue me if I take them into a property and they end up catching COVID-19? Katie Johnson, the general counsel for the National Association of Realtors, has recommended to all the attorneys on the NAR listserv that recommended against that. Just because COVID-19 is so prevalent, there's no way really for people to trace where they've been exposed. Everyone knows about it unless you're living under a rock. People know that it's highly, highly contagious. So we just don't see the need for that. Again, it's not illegal to have people sign them, but it's, if it gives you some comfort. And then finally, I'll just mention sight unseen. I know we've been hearing from realtors that more people are making offers on property without ever going inside the property just because of COVID-19 concerns. Maybe it's a multi-unit that's occupied. And so the request was, should the Forms Committee create a sight unseen addendum to the purchase and sales agreement? We've not created a standalone addendum, but what we have done is there's some language posted in rirealtors.org that you can use. And it's more of a warning rather than someone saying they're not going to sue you. It's just saying, hey, be advised that, make sure to have a home inspection. If you haven't seen the property yourselves, and make sure to confirm anything that is of interest to you in the property. So those are kind of some of the highlights of the legal issues. Please keep your questions coming. Like Phil said at the start of this, the legal hotline's still up and running. And then Bev, the final thing I'll mention is David Salvatore, when he spoke before, mentioned I might be speaking about smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors. I'll end with just raising some of the questions we've been getting lately, and perhaps Ted or Brenda might want to chime in on some of those, but I've been getting some questions about and need some clarification as to whether Rhode Island Housing in particular is allowing, in the towns and cities that won't allow video inspections or aren't conducting live inspections, some towns will only allow escrowing of funds if a smoke detector inspection can't be conducted prior to closing. And so we've gotten some conflicting information as to whether Rhode Island Housing, and for that matter, other lenders, how they're handling that. So I'll toss it out as a question, and if Ted or Brenda or anyone else wants to pick up on that, feel free, but I think that'd be really useful for people to know how smokes are being handled in different areas. So thanks very much and stay safe, everybody.
Thank you, Monica. Great information. All right, so we have the infamous Ted Reidy, Esquire, closing and agent for Penarjin and Marinelli, and I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that. But will the real Ted Reidy please step forward? You are, oh, there you go, you're not muted.
There I am.
Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you, Beverly. And good morning to all the aspiring Ted Reidys out there. Well, first of all, I'll start off with some good news. Transactions are closing. Buyers are committed, assuming all the things are in line. Their financing inspections go well, all those things. The beginning of this whole thing, the phone calls of buyers who were in a panic mode, trying to get out of transactions, there were many, but most of them stuck with it. And I have to say that they are closing. So it's great news in that regard. You know, in trying to get these things closed, we've run into a lot of practical issues. Obviously, the main objective is maintaining the safety of clients, staff, and attorneys while completing transactions, but they have come together. I think the thing is basically, you know, effective communication with all the parties, setting expectations, informing realtors and particularly buyers and sellers of the protocol of the individual office. And, you know, because each office seems to have a slightly different way of doing this. The whole concept of an e-closing, electronic closing is not there. A lot of lenders, and I'll talk about this in a few minutes, are really just not allowing it. So it's still old-fashioned closings, but without everyone together in the same office. So what we're doing, if you've ever seen Jerry Seinfeld's Netflix series, Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, our version is clients in cars closing loans. And that's what we've been doing. It sounds a bit archaic, but we've kept people in their vehicles. They have a great sense of security. It's like an extension of your home. They pull up. Luckily, our office is on the first floor, so we walk right up the front door. We assure them that there's a clipboard with all the paper. It's all identified, highlight where things have to be signed, all tabbed, initial, sign, etc. I bring it out to the package out to the car, and I have a mask, shield, and gloves on, and the people feel comfortable doing that. I give them my telephone number. There's a full instruction sheet that we give them, and I go back into the building, and they call me with any questions or when they're done, and then, of course, I take the notarization. Again, it sounds a bit archaic, but it has been effective because we got phone calls right away that people just don't want to come to our office. They don't want to go to any office, and I get that. And I know that certain offices out there don't have any other way other than to bring people in. And if that's, but I've talked to a number of my colleagues, and they really have pretty good protocols, and everyone has a separate way of doing it. But that's really what we've been doing. So we're keeping everyone separate. We're having sellers. A lot of times sellers have their own attorneys. They're dealing with things separately, and then we're dealing with our buyers. And that process has seemed to work pretty well. And I kind of see that continuing. We're trying to avoid the contact with clients as much as possible. And I think that this is what we've arrived at so far. But, it's a difficult process. Things may change over time. If technology allows us, we'll make those changes. And if I could just say one thing, I had some disturbing news this morning. One of my colleagues, who I know pretty well, has been afflicted with it. His office, I said his, I should have not said their office, but it is an attorney, it's a friend of mine. And I can't say the name, but he's an excellent attorney, great office. And when this thing is over, please go back to that attorney. If you're dealing with that attorney now, your transaction may have been affected, will be affected. There's very good coverage that's coming down for that attorney, but please go right back and maintain your loyalty when that happens. So, really that's what we're doing here. We're trying to obtain as much information as possible, as early as possible. As you all know, the access to city and town halls is really limited. It's not good. We try to get as much information, and all the realtors that I've been dealing with have stepped up. They've been so good about providing us with information well in advance. They're getting water information to us. They're letting us know about whether it's well, septic, homeowners associations, fire districts, and they're really stepping up. So hats off to RIA for very good training in that regard. Monica, you mentioned about the smoke carbon monoxide detector certificate situation. Well, as you know, the Rhode Island Fire Safety Code Board of Appeals issued what they call an interpretation of the existing regulations. Well, really what they've done is kind of given two options, and they were touched on briefly there. Submission of a video recording of the detector showing that they are in good working order, or submitting evidence that an escrow account, and it doesn't say with the attorney, but I don't know who else it would be, established by the seller in the amount of $150 that would be paid to the buyer in the event of a failed inspection. The buyer would then have the inspection performed sometime after. I think it's within 60 days after the governor removes the declaration of the emergency in the state of Rhode Island. I'll be honest with you, I really hope that people are trying to use the video recording first. That seems to be the most effective. From what I've heard, most fire departments are following that. I have not had a purchase yet, through the ingenuity of the agents that I've been dealing with, where I haven't gotten a smoke detector certificate. And from a lender's standpoint, I don't want to speak on Brenda's behalf in Rhode Island Housing, as far as whether or not they're waiving anything, but most lenders want it, because if you read that executive order, that interpretation, it says upon determination of compliance with one of these two options, the fire department shall issue a certificate of inspection, meaning lenders want it. Lenders have read this. They're saying we want to see that certificate. So I don't see that they're really waiving it that much. Another issue that, I started off by saying that most buyers are getting to the table. They're committed. They want to close, but hats off to the Executive and Forms Committee of RIAR for coming up with the COVID-19 amendment to the purchase and sales agreement. I think it's only fair. I know that sellers, those listing agents out there whose sellers find out that the deal is not happening because the buyer lost their financing, because they lost their job. I feel bad for those sellers, but if anyone ever been involved in the whole concept of trying to hold a deposit, it is not an easy process. And in all fairness to buyers in this unprecedented time, I think it's just fair that if they don't get their finances of loss of employment or some other issue that's come up as a result of this crisis, that they are able to get out of the transaction. Let's see. There's also the COVID-19 addendum to the deed. This has to be recorded. It's really just a notice that we're all familiar with now. It's a notice going out to any home buyers, renters, hotel guests, and anything. That person's coming to Rhode Island must self-quarantine for 14 days. It's not a big deal, but to any of the practitioners out there, make sure that on your purchases, these are attached to the deed and recorded with that deed. So now getting on to the remote notarization process. I'm trying to move along quickly here because I have quite a bit of information. I really appreciate everything that RIAR has done in terms of trying to move this along with the governor's office and the Secretary of State's office. And on April 3rd, there was Secretary of State issued a temporary guidance to notaries allowing for remote notarization. Now, just to clarify, this is not truly remote online notarization as described like in industry standards. This is more of remote notarization, but it still deals with a notary, a signer, which both parties have to be within Rhode Island, and that the notary through webcam, they have to have communication electronically, visually, and audio, sees the person signing the document in wet ink. Then that document is then forwarded to the attorney, who when they receive the hard copy, but does the formal notarization at that point, then those documents are ready to go to recording. So there is a process. I don't know if it's worth going through for any notaries out there to try to get this. You still have to go through a process with the Secretary of State's office. You have to be a commissioned notary public. You have to obtain the service of a couple of service providers. They're called Doc Verify or Pavazo. Basically, part of it is to confirm some of the identification of the party signing, and also for recording of this, because we're required to maintain a record of that notarization for 10 years. I'll be long retired, so I'm not going to worry about that. So, you know, as I said, the notary and the signer must be physically in Rhode Island. The notary and signer must be able to communicate simultaneously by sight and sound, and the notary has to identify the party signing. That becomes a little tricky through personal knowledge, which isn't going to happen too often, or two different forms of identification, or oath or affirmation of a credible witness. I don't know, someone's brother-in-law, I guess, is standing nearby and tells you that is definitely the party. But you know, it's not. This was a good step. It's in the right direction. I don't know if it's really practical from a closing standpoint, because some of the larger lenders have actually sent us notice that they are not accepting remote notarization of any kind. And so that kind of put us dead in the water. You know, for lenders that might, for an office to kind of switch over and try to do this one with a remote notarization and this one without, all of our transactions have been that car situation I've told you about, and it's worked. But we will adjust. We have the technology to do that. I think my office and a number of other offices will continue to operate, even if someone does come down with the condition, you know, with the virus. We're fortunate with my office, at least. I don't mean to tout my office, because I think a lot of ones that are out there, we have some redundancy. We have an office in Boston, and the attorneys up there are licensed in Rhode Island, and we're licensed in Mass. And we've kept some of our key people working from home. So if it hits our office, we're able to adapt and switch off and continue to get transactions done. Where I do see remote notarization working pretty well, and I have used it already, is on the seller side of the transaction, because then I have sellers who I can send documents to. If they have, you know, print or that type of thing, they can print out the documents. I sent them in particular deeds, some of the other documents, and use this process to get that done, because that lenders don't have any say in that regard. And so we are able to handle that process. Keep moving here. Post-closing issues. One of the things that I've had an issue with for a while with a number of lenders, Rhode Island Housing excluded from this, is not funding loans. Lenders want funding documents. So first of all, from a standpoint of not having funds when closing, I think there's be a lot of sellers who are concerned about that. I'm hoping this leads to lenders relying upon their closing attorneys to get us the funds prior to closing, as they should be, in my opinion. They get a closing protection letter from someone like John Comrie's office that will protect for any wrongdoing, loss of funds, that type of thing. So that's one of the major steps. I hope that is corrected through this whole thing. I don't want to go too far into the recording and the concept of gap insurance, because John has more and better information than I do about that. But, you know, I think that a number of our members and affiliates are going to experience some loss and hardship in this. And if I can speak on behalf of RIAR, please, you know, rely upon your friends and colleagues that they will step up. You have a lot of people who can help you out with this. So if you run into that difficulty.
I just lost everything.
Then, and lastly, the very last thing, if I could just do a shout out to everyone at RIAR, the people that are amazing. Shannon, our president, Phil, Monica, Ann, John, Joyce, Sabrina, oh yeah, David Salvador, that guy. And, you know, just if I left anyone out, I apologize, but just you do an amazing job, and thank you.
Ed, thank you so much for that great information. Thanks for joining us. Next, we have John Comrie, Esquire, who's the Rhode Island State Manager and Title Counsel with CADIC, who's always been very supportive. And John's got some great information for us. Here you go, John. Thank you. Check your microphone. Where are you?
Can you hear me now?
Ah, yes, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And it is an honor to address the Rhode Island Realtor community on behalf of the title insurance industry. I'll be very brief, I hope. I'd start out by telling you, as you're all aware, I'm sure, for the most part, the law in Rhode Island gives priority to instruments and interests in order of the recording of those interests and instruments. So that's why in normal circumstances, closings that you're accustomed to, transactions cannot be dispersed until up to the minute title rundown is performed and the documents are recorded. By doing that, what we normally do is we confirm that there's been no intervening liens or other interests that have been recorded that would affect the party that is buying or the lender. But then along came this virus. And in Rhode Island, as you know, we have 39 cities and town halls, and they've all reacted differently. Some of them have closed completely, and then as a result, are not accepting documents for recording at all. Or some others are severely limiting the access to the town hall in light of their health concerns posed by this COVID-19 transmission. So that put us in a spot because, in effect, if we didn't come to the plate at that point, all these transactions would have to stop. So we recognize as an industry the economic necessity of consummating these transactions. In order to keep this vital component of our economy moving, we as title insurers have taken on this risk in the form of what we call gap coverage that was just mentioned by Ted. In essence, what that is what we've done is we authorize our closing attorneys and agents to disperse the funds and insure the property in favor of the lender and the buyer as if they had recorded, even though they haven't, because the town hall is inaccessible. So thus, while we wait for the city town hall to reopen for recording, which may very well be months in some cases, we've assumed the liability for these intervening issues and liens that may be recorded. So as an aside, I guess I'm prohibited from giving too much detail, but lest you think this is all fun and games, without going into any specific detail, I will tell you that despite this short period of time that we've offered gap insurance in Rhode Island, which is 3 or 4 weeks, I've already received a 6-figure claim on this. In this recent transaction, the town involved required that the deed and mortgage be mailed in for recording. You could not go in person. So the closing attorney did the closing and did mail those documents in as required, dutifully and promptly. But unfortunately, in the mail that was processed by the town clerk a few days later, before our deed and mortgage was a mechanic's lien, a very large mechanic's lien, which now, under the Rhode Island law, that takes priority over that deed and that new mortgage. So I just give you that as an aside. I don't want you to feel bad for us, but this does have real consequences. So it's risk, and we are in the risk business, and that's some of the fallout from taking the risk. We've already experienced some of it. But it is still important, and we're still committed to doing it because we want to keep this wheel turning. So this is just one of the steps we've taken in order to keep the purchases and sales in Rhode Island to being consummated. In addition, we've also relaxed many of our usual requirements by way of certifications and authorizations, particularly things from Division of Taxation and other entities where it's slower and harder to get them. So as not to put the brakes on a transaction, we've also taken on risk for many of those types of missing documents. Another area where we've had to adapt is in title searching itself. As been mentioned a few times, the access to the land records has been severely impacted. Many towns are closed. Some have very limited access. Some have no online capabilities. And the ones that do have online capabilities, they're limited in scope, how far back you can search. And quite often it's not far enough for us to actually do a real title search. I bring this up just quickly because I was told yesterday by some of the people on this call that they've experienced transactions that have been put on hold or canceled altogether and fallen through because proper title examination was not feasible or possible. So what I want to throw out there, I guess, on behalf of my company, and I don't know, I can't speak for my competitors, but in such a situation, if you have such a situation that you think that's going to hold up a closing or harpoon it all together, I'd ask that you have the closing agent run it by me, run it by us first. Because although I can make no promises, I will tell you what I can say is I will look at each of these situations on a case-by-case basis. And if I can determine that there's reasonable risk being taken based on what we can ascertain, it's quite possible that we can authorize the closing of that property even without the full title examination. So again, I don't want to make that promise, but I do want to put that out there before anybody gives up on a transaction. Keep that in the back of your mind. So I don't want to take up any more of your time, and I don't want to bore you any further. So that's all I have, and I do thank you for the opportunity to speak to all of you.
Thank you so much, John, for joining us. Before I pass along to John Bro, Monica did put something in the chat, but Monica, do you want to take 1 second to talk about the home inspector licensing? Are you still there? You're muted if you are.
Yes,
Oh, no.
I've unmuted. Have
Okay,
you met me
thanks.
lately, Bev? I don't know about 1 second, but what we put in the chat, in case any of you haven't had access to it yet, is that as of last week, home inspector licensing was postponed until July 1st. You know, whether that's going to be the final deadline, I mean, who knows at this point, but just want to assure you that the RIAR purchase and sales agreements will all be updated in the inspection contingency when we have that final deadline from the Contractors Registration Board. And anyway, so whenever that is, the forms are all ready to go. It'll change from recognized inspectors to licensed inspectors. Yay. And the other thing that you'll see in the chat, or we can send it out afterwards as well, is that if you want to see if any of the home inspectors with whom you or your customers or clients are working are licensed already, I've included the link to the Contractors Registration Board, and you can check that out. So we're making progress. Thanks, Bev.
Thanks, thank you, Monica. Just wanted a note about the links in the chat. Unfortunately, they're not links you can click on. You do have to copy and paste those into your browser. So, John Bro, thank you very much. John Bro will be talking about MLS, any changes and any rules. He is our VP of MLS Member Services at RI Realtors and Statewide MLS. Thank you, John.
Thanks, Bev. Good morning, everybody. I just want to talk briefly about what MLS's response has been during this crisis. Much of what we did really came pretty early in the process, and that was based on a lot of questions we had. Obviously, when this first started happening, we received a lot of questions related to listings. How does this affect my listings? You know, I want to leave my listing in, my seller's not comfortable with people coming in, et cetera, et cetera. So we've done a number of things. First, we've loosened our requirements in terms of a property being available for showings. So typically, if a listing is in MLS is active, it needs to be available for physical showings. A buyer should be able to get into the property and physically be able to see the property. So we've loosened that our definition of available for showings to allow for virtual showings. And what this looks like can take a variety of formats: virtual tours, virtual walkthroughs. There are a number of ways that this can be accomplished without bringing the buyer physically into the property. So you're allowed to keep the listing active as long as you accommodate for some sort of virtual showing. But understand that at some point the property is going to need to be available. If a serious buyer wants to get in to move further down the process, they're going to need to get access to the property. So if you have a listing that's just not available in any fashion, you have a virtual tour on it, but you have a serious buyer, they want to get in to see the property, and you're just refusing to let anybody in, or your seller's not comfortable, then really that kind of goes beyond the loosening that we've intended, and you're better off really withdrawing that listing, entering it as a withdrawn WW, I believe, withdrawn from publication. So I just want to get that out. Our loosening isn't meant for you just to leave a listing active with no intention of letting anyone in ever. It's really just to help accommodate you in these difficult times and offer flexibility. But at some point, like I said, it will need to be available. We've also added some new data fields. These were pushed just last week, I believe, to allow for virtual open houses. So as we know, the governor and RIAR are discouraging physical open houses. So we have a mechanism there in Matrix now where you can enter an open house and indicate that it's a virtual open house. And with that, there is a URL that you can put in that will allow the users to click on it and view the virtual open house. Now, this is really intended to be for live streamed open houses, not just a virtual tour link in the URL. So if you're putting something in as a virtual open house, it's really meant to be for live streaming open houses. Or at least at a minimum, a real virtual walkthrough of the property, not just a standard virtual tour. So that's that. We also increased the number of photos so that you can help showcase your property a little better. We've increased from 40 to 50 photos. So that's something we've done as well. In addition, as we're getting a lot of emails, and you folks are getting a lot of emails, we're trying to pass along offers from various vendors that we have relationships with. A lot of them are offering, discounts or free webinars. To Shannon's point about working on your business, there's some great opportunities out there for free webinars, so we're trying to pass those along to you. We're keeping a very close eye on what's happening across the country in the MLS industry. We're not alone at statewide MLS in dealing with these issues in Rhode Island. Obviously it's across the country. All MLSs are facing a lot of the same issues. And so we're seeing that what we're doing is pretty consistent with what MLSs are doing across the country. Other than that, we're really just trying to keep things normal, keep going forward with business as usual, so that you can be productive and rely on your system to do your business. We're going to continue to enhance the product. We early announced our strengthening our core initiative, which is really to focus on the core product matrix. And so with that, we're going to continue to improve that. We've also just released the qualified opportunity zones map layer in Matrix. So that's a great way for you to search for properties using a layer to see if they're in actually a qualified opportunity zone. So we're pretty excited about that. Also, we do have the clear cooperation policy that we've been talking about for quite some time. That's still going to happen as of May 1st. So we're focusing on that as well. Other than that, again, to Shannon's point about working on your business, we just encourage you to take advantage of some of the other products and offerings on the member gateway dashboard. There are a lot of icons there, and most times we just ignore those and we just go right into Matrix. But now's a good time to just go in there and look at some of them, see what they have to offer, and see if there isn't something there that you can leverage. So with that, Bev, I'll turn it back to you. And if you have questions, by the way, just email me. It's john@rirealtors.org.
Thank you, John. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we are quickly running out of time, but last and certainly not least, we have our Director of Professional Development who's going to take a quick moment to talk about a couple of things. And again, I do have all the questions, so with very little time left, I'll just make sure that I get the document out to everyone through email. We also have recorded this session, as you probably know. It told you when you entered. We are going to do some little minor edits to it, and we will release it out to everyone next week. So keep your eyes out for that. And Anne, thank you.
Well, thank you. And special thanks to all of our panelists who gave up a lot of their precious time today to join us. All this was kind of put together very quickly. And I think, judging from how our time together has gone, they've done an excellent job. And I would be hugely remiss if I didn't and she's going to kill me, but I don't care. Beverly, huge kudos to you for managing this despite the little snafu that we had.
Yeah,
You've done
I'm sorry, can I please apologize for that to Ted especially and to everyone else? That was like yeah, I do apologize for that, but thank
well,
you, Dan.
considering what you had to do to get this up and running, you know, that one small glitch is very insignificant, but thank you for everything. So very, very quickly, I'm just going to bring your attention to a couple of exciting things that are happening. I would like for you to mark down April the 29th and April 30th. On those 2 days and those 2 days only, we are happy to bring a new online school to you by the name of Keynote. And April, as I'm sure you're aware of, is Fair Housing Month. And for those 2 days only, if you register for Fair Housing, it's 4 core credits. We're able to bring that to you with no fees. So it's Keynote, April the 29th and 30th only. Register on those specific days only. 4 core credits, Fair Housing for free. The next day, May 1, mark your calendars, because only on May 1, when you register again with Keynote, there's a 6-hour CE course called Beneath the Surface, and it is all about the construction and mechanisms of a house. Again, that will be offered to you for free, but I can't emphasize enough, it's only open registration on those specific days, April 29th and 30th, 4 core credits for Fair Housing, May 1 only, register, participate, 6 CEs for Beneath the Surface. Now, the beautiful thing with this online school is that they're very, very high level, nationally well-known speakers, people like Jackie Leavenworth, Chris Bird, a few others. If you are a CRS designee, this credit also applies to your CRS maintenance. It will not count towards the actual designation itself, but it will count towards the maintenance credit. So that was a really, really nice benefit that Phil Tedesco, our CEO, and the organizers at Keynote arranged for us. So I'm really, really happy with that, and I hope you all take advantage of it. We do have our May schedule pretty much, put together. It will be released shortly. Speaking of things that you can do to work on your business, we were able to partner with Boston University. They have a webinar series that's currently in process. We do have April the 30th, which is a Thursday, I believe. May 1st are the last 2 sessions, but that is the future of commercial real estate and COVID. So this is a very high level webinar that we were able to participate in. The last education and events and newsletter that was sent out, I think that was mentioned in the webinars. So please take heed of that if you choose to find out more information about the future of commercial real estate. I'm also happy to announce some more information will be coming to you. So you're the first ones to know that one of our CRS instructors, Jack Cotton, who's highly successful in the luxury market, will be offering a free webinar for us on May 7th at noon. Again, May 7th at noon. And he will discuss all of the things that we should be doing in the industry, in your practice, while we're in this sheltering in place. And Jack has a huge amount of tips and not tricks, but you know what I mean, good suggestions on how to market, how to survive during this period. Not only survive, but thrive. So I'm really pleased with that. And again, all of this information will be coming to you soon. Thank you to Carrie and her communications department. If you have unsubscribed to our newsletters, either the monthly newsletter from RIAR or education events, I highly recommend you unsubscribe. And as to Shannon's point, please read your emails. I know you get inundated with them just as we do, but a lot of good information is coming down the pike. As to these town halls, so today's session really was to give a 50,000 feet look at life as we know it during these times with our respective subject matter experts. What we are going to do from today forward, if participation warrants, so tell your friends that weren't able to make today's session. We had over 220 some odd registrants. I think we kind of capped at 186 the last time I checked. So obviously you find value in this, and we will continue to provide this kind of thing for you that will be market driven. So as David and Monica mentioned, we will have the next session, mark your calendars, April the 30th. That will be at 1 p.m. when it will be all things to do with what's going on with the government at the state, federal, local level. Monica will be talking about her hotline. We will also have a representative from the DLT that will talk about unemployment insurance, which I know will be, you know, of intrinsic value to all of you. So if you had questions today, next week would be the time to actually pose it to the rep. So April 30th at 1, we will be hosting one, as Monica said, on May 8th. The time is to be determined, but I would venture to say we're going to aim to keep this consistent for you as best we can. So 9:30 to 11 going forward from May 8th. That whole discussion will be on rentals. And so Monica and Hannah, our AE from Newport County, will be spearheading that. May 15th, again, I'm assuming it's going to be 9:30 to 11. Hasn't been determined yet, so if it has to change, bear with me. I think what we'll do from that town hall session, we will talk to our lenders directly. We will have a couple of appraisers, because I know the appraisal issue continues as we move through this COVID situation. And then I'm fortunate to have a representative from CSI, and those folks deal with cybersecurity. So that looks like the panel that we are going to employ for that May 15th. May 22nd has a question mark, and this is where your input is critical. I can't do my job unless I hear from you. So I will give you my email. If you don't know it, it's ANN, very simple, ANN@rirealtors.org. You tell me what's affecting you in the marketplace, and we will bundle all of your questions, concerns into the topics and try and create another town hall session for you that's specifically market driven and viable information, so we can really take a deeper dive. So with that, I've kept you 6 minutes over. I hope you will understand the reasons why. So I'm going to turn it back to Bev. And again, huge thank you to you and the rest of the staff and our speakers today. I think it was worthy of our time. And I can't thank you enough for the support that you give. So Beverly, it's all yours.
I just want to say a quick thank you again to everyone for attending. I don't know how many of our panelists have been able to keep up with the chat, but all the comments have been great, and everyone, it looks like everybody got some great information. So thank you all for attending. Like Monica and everyone else said, keep your eyes tuned to email, to social, and to our website to see the dates and links to join our future sessions. Thanks everyone for attending, and stay safe.